Welcome to the Gangcast, aka the Games and Not Games podcast. I'm Jan Garcia, and joining me, as always, is Isaiah Smith.
Hello.
Isaiah, starting right into the game section.
Yeah.
Congratulations on beating The Legend of Zelda, Echoes of Wisdom.
Yeah. No, Zelda, she did it. She was the protagonist of her own game, finally.
We did it, Joe.
Finally, the series named after her. Her name is in every title, and yet this is the first one where you, for the full game, almost a full game, play as Zelda. At the very beginning, you play as Link.
Oh.
Like at the very intro, like, credits scene kind of thing.
Yeah, like the first thing you do is play as Link. Yeah, you're right.
But then you very quickly become Zelda. And then, it's great. You go on a little adventure. It's a cutesy little, was it Link to the Past? Or no, it was
Link's Awakening?
Link's Awakening aesthetic. Everything looks like all chibi and cutesy. Little, almost like diorama dolls and stuff.
Yeah.
It's really good. Really good. Game is good.
What does it get?
Turns out Nintendo knows how to make a good game.
Yeah. They don't know how to make it run well, but they know how to make a good game.
They don't know how to make it run well, but yeah.
What does it get on the Isaiah scale? And then also remind us what the Isaiah scale is.
Yeah. So the Isaiah scale, reminder is 1, I did not like it, like actively did not like it. 2 is didn't like it or dislike it. It's like kind of neutral kind of thing. It's fine, essentially. 3 is I liked it, actively positive affiliation with it. And then 4 is loved it, where it's like the strongest positive you can get. It's an asymmetrical scale, favoring a bonus positive option. I give it a 3.
I thought
it's a strong 3 though. It's a very, very strong 3. For me, I think, and talked about this a little bit before, and I'm sure the people who talk about the game online have already mentioned, or at least I've seen a lot of people talk about it already, where it's like the game is good and they give you all these cool tools and monsters and echoes that you can make to like solve all these problems and this, that, and that. But I just find myself gravitating to the same 5 echoes. It's like the bed is your first ride or die echo. It gets you where you need to go. It gets you up. It gets you far. It does whatever it needs to do. Eventually you get these like water blocks, which is not a spoiler because it's fairly early in the game. You get these water blocks, and water blocks is just a new bed where like if I find myself needing to go up or across or something, I'm just using the water blocks. And then the monster is just like whatever the strongest monster you just got is the one that I feel like you should just always summon, because if they had like a cooldown to echoes, I think that would be cause for a little bit more strategic thinking and like maybe make me change up which echo. But like as soon as an echo dies, you could just respawn it again. Yeah. So it's like, well, there's really no incentive to experiment too much outside of your own personal, just kind of like experimentation and exploration. Which I'm not. I am a efficiency boy. All right. I got my big dude. I'm spawning big dude. He'll just beat whatever it is that the little snakes and slimes and everything else I come across.
I'm trying to have fun. A lot of times I am an efficiency person, but in a game like this, I feel like it's fun to have fun.
I'm curious how long you'll feel that way, because the game is longer than I thought it was going to be too.
You were playing that game for a while.
Yeah,
like what was your end? I know you're mad that Nintendo doesn't count. You're bad at seconds, but what's your general?
If I had to guess, I would say probably around like 10-ish.
Okay,
hours.
I felt like you were playing that thing for like 20 hours. I felt like every time I looked, you were playing Zelda.
Probably,
maybe you just picked it up when I walked in the room or something.
My guess is I'm in that 10 to 12.
Okay.
I didn't do too much exploration. I did do like a lot of the side stuff, but not like 100% of everything. But yeah, no, solid meaty game.
I think my last question for you about it is, and maybe not because you said you used a lot of the same ones, so maybe you just always filtered to like most used and then just hung out there. But did it become like way too cumbersome having like 100? Because you get like 100 total,
it's so
or you
many.
can
at
at
least.
I
don't know. Yeah,
I'm sure like you don't have to capture all of them to like beat the game, but
I mean, there's no reason not to capture something if you come across it outside of just it expands this list of things you scroll through. I found that I mostly stayed in the like last used filter.
Yeah.
And then, I was able to just, if I needed something like, the bed or like the flame slime or whatever, it's like, oh, I haven't used this in a while. Maybe I got to like just hold right on that menu for a good chunk of time till I finally get it.
That menu is so diabolical.
It needs even just like a page skip would be good. Like
literally, and this sounds like really mean, anything else. Like
No.
like anything else could have improved it.
They have a grid in the book. Like when you press start and you go to your book of echoes, it's like a grid, and that's easier to parse through.
A grid would be better,
or all the time.
If it was left to right scroll, having the ability to also have like an up, like where you could like almost have like
like jump basically, right?
No, I'm thinking of having it like. Let's make it up like 10 slots left to right, but in each of those you can like scroll around almost like a slot machine.
That would be dope.
But not randomized, obviously.
Yeah. So basically, like, I mean, that would solve kind of like the favorites even, where it's like, hey, in slot 1, I'm keeping this.
Yeah, you can keep like
you can slot whatever
monsters.
You want. Yeah.
You could,
that would
fun.
be really good, man.
Nintendo, buy me out. I'm always available to be bought out.
It's crazy. This third topic, you're already coming in hot with like.
Yeah. No one has ever said, actually, this is what you should have done in your game on a video game podcast before. This is the first we invented backseat developing. Yeah. It seems really fun. I don't know when I'm going to get back to it though, because we are both digging into Metaphor ReFantazio.
Game's
I guess I think it'll actually be more interesting if you explain what this game is, because I feel like I've been covering it for quite a while since like that initial preview well, not initial, but one of the preview cycles they had prior to even the demo coming out. And as people may know, I am streaming for the rest of my life Persona 5 Royal on my Twitch channel. So what is Metaphor ReFantazio?
Metaphor is a Atlas game. So these are the people who make Persona. And it is, I would say, fairly similar to Persona. I never played a Persona, so you can let me know where I fall wrong at. But it's similar to Persona in that, there's your main character and eventually sort of like a group of his friends kind of join together to do the game is split between sort of light life sim things, such as you can hang out with friends. Maybe you can, in Persona, I know you can like go see a movie or like read a book or do various things like that during the day, and alternatively something also at night. And that's like sort of like one option of gameplay. The alternate form of gameplay that you'll end up doing is going in dungeons and like fighting monsters and bosses and progressing a story. And you can do that as a day activity, but that encompasses kind of the whole day. And so you quickly, it's an RPG where you find yourself kind of like building, in this one at least, you build these sort of like dynamic teams based on archetypes, which is kind of like classes that you can assign to the characters. Each class has their own abilities, their own like benefits and pros and cons and skill sets and things like that you level up and progress over time. But you ultimately are going on this adventure, this story. Metaphor ReFantazio is very much about metaphors and like a sort of like not knight in shining armory kind of thing, but like it's very much that you're trying to save the prince by defeating the bad guy who put a curse on him. Yeah, like that is sort of the nutshell. That is the princess is in another castle kind of thing.
Yeah, at least the initial pitch. I'm very curious if they end
see
up
where it goes. But
the prince was the friends you made along the way or something. I don't know. It's a fantasy game, so fantasy settings, swords, occasional dragons, things like that. I feel like that's about sums up what the game is. Really long because it's a JRPG, so it's supposed to be like a bunch of hours.
Like 80 plus hours?
That's what people are saying. So 120 for me.
It doesn't feel that way. Like
the time flies by in this game. And so I started like putting this game on my radar a bit later than like the hardcore people. Like the really hardcore people were like, if you remember back, our friends do a fantasy draft, and like I think one of them had picked Metaphor ReFantazio and was we're all like, what is this game? And they're like, it's a new game from Atlas. It's going to be really good because they're a really great developer. And we're like, okay. And honestly, my hesitation was not in Atlas as a team, but like Atlas does make Persona, which is like really great acclaimed JRPG, but they also make a lot of other stuff that isn't always as acclaimed. And I know some people will say, well, there's different teams within Atlas. Like you have to be able to track the team. And I get that. But the reality is it's not like everything they make is necessarily John Blaze. And a thing that's not Persona, I don't know. Maybe it'll be good. Maybe it won't. And not that I thought it would be bad, but I'm like, I don't know that's necessarily going to bang. I started really putting this game on my radar more heavily after I think that first preview cycle that happened at Summer Game Fest. I didn't get to do that one, but people were coming out of that saying, oh yeah, this game seems really good. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I don't know, y'all. It's going to be really long. Like, we'll see. I don't think I'm going to play it. And I was already playing Persona. And then I got to play it at Xbox did an event, Gamescom in LA, where they had it playable again. And since a lot of the press there had already played it, it was an empty station. So I sat myself down. I said, okay, I'm playing Metaphor ReFantazio. And I was like, oh, this is really good. There I only did dungeon stuff and I did a boss. So I'm like, well, we'll see how the life sim stuff is, because I didn't get any of that in my demo personally. And I was like, okay, this seems really good. Like, this seems really good. And then, you know, I got the code for it, like during like the press review cycle, and was playing that. But also during that time, the demo also released for the public. So it was kind of cool because, you know, you were able to like get into it while I was playing it as well. But that kind of leads me to my question for you, which is like, how did you end up getting into this? Like, what made you kind of perk up and go, okay, I'm going to sit my ass down and play some Metaphor ReFantazio as well?
Yeah. For me, honestly, it really stemmed from just your streams, right? Where like every week you stream. Right now you're playing Persona 5 Royale. Yeah.
Royal.
There's Royal.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Royale with cheese. Like,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Royale. Yeah. So you're streaming every week. You're streaming Persona. And I, help you with your setup and stream and manning and producing and stuff like that. And so I see you play the game and like, it seems interesting. Like, the weirdness of the Persona world aside, the gameplay seems interesting. Again, that band of characters, the classes, the leveling up, the dungeon running, all that stuff seems interesting. But I never played a Persona game. And I know that they're, at least I believe they're all like separate. Like, you don't need to play
correct
Personas 1 through 4 to jump into 5.
Yeah, it's an anthology, not a.
But for me, the idea of like, oh, well, this is like a new IP. I don't know, new IP. Always,
you're right. New IP is always exciting.
Easier to get into for me than sequel, even if they're anthologies. So yeah, that came out. You were playing it, and I saw you play. The stuff in the living room. I was like, you know what, this looks good. Let me try it. When I had to try my hand at it, I downloaded the demo, and honestly, yeah, it's so enticing. Like, everything about it is Isaiah. You know what I mean? Metaphor
Isaiah Tagio or something. Yeah, like it was really funny. I was playing it, for work stuff, and you're like, you also were kind of not in between games, because I think you did still have Zelda at the time, but you're like, I want to have like my RPG that I'm sitting and playing. Yeah. And you sit down, you're like, oh, let me try to work on this Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And the way that like you immediately like sat down and then were like you ever sit down and do something and then you're like, nah, today's not the day. Like, I don't want to do this. Like, that was the energy you were exuding. And then you had swapped over to the demo, which also, I don't want to say that we're giving up on Rebirth, but Rebirth is not looking good. It's not looking good for Rebirth with where we last left off.
I'm close. I'm not there yet, but I'm pretty close to putting Rebirth in the Days Gone bucket, where it's like, I eventually want to get to it because I want the satisfaction of seeing where it goes. What's the end of it? But yeah, I'm not chomping at the bits to play more.
Yeah, there's a lot left, and we both have now. There are 3 big RPGs on the table. Rebirth seems like the easiest one to kind of, put to the side a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. So we did say we were going down to one save file. Yes, to go down to one save file, which is still kind of a plan, but also I'm like, I think we should just play Metaphor ReFantazio. We should see if we can get to that like a dragon game. And if by some miracle we finish both of those games, sure, Rebirth can come on up and we can just, ride that out to the end. Because it's not like those, I will say Rebirth is not nearly as long as those 2 other games, but there's just so much of it left and we don't really have we're not enjoying it. So it's like, okay, well, we really are just doing it for the clout. And I'm like, so yeah, that was just kind of a funny thing of like, it was interesting seeing you want to play a game so badly. Like, I don't think I've seen that from you with almost any game. I mean, it happens to you a good amount because there are games that you look forward to. Yeah. But it's been a while since you were like, hating from outside the club of my save file. Where you're like, and then when you get to the end of the demo, you're like, now I just wait. Like,
well, that's what I went then back to Echoes to like, I don't know, hold me over until I could play more, until the game dropped and I could play more Metaphor. It's well, I think also there's very rarely a game that comes out that like, Astro was kind of another one where it was like watching you play made me want to play more than if the game wasn't on in the house. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, I'm seeing that this game is good and I can't play it. There's one thing to like know a game's going to come out or like hear reviews or see previews or something like that. And like, oh, I know this game's going to be good, but it's out of sight, out of mind. I'm seeing this gameplay in the house. Like, it's in the living room. I see that it's good and I can't play it.
Yeah, you're on personal GameStop TV, but it's like going on the whole time.
Yes, the stream is on. Like,
but it's been really enjoyable. I'm only 16 hours into it. I was playing pretty intensely for a few days, trying to prepare for podcast content and things. But then once that was done, I just had other work. You know, I was other games to play, other games to stream. You know, you joined me on my stream yesterday for some of the newer games coming out. Because every week new games come out. Every day new games come out, really. So, you know, taking care of some of that. But I did the first dungeon. I did an optional side quest dungeon that you can pick up in the town.
Yep.
And I think that's basically all I did. You know, maybe like an extra day or two here, like making soup for somebody, like listening to someone drunkenly tell me his story, you know, listening to some random man talk about his people. Like, I just, you know, kind of hanging out.
How does it compare for you to Persona?
Oh,
like you're doing them both at the same time. You're Atlas over here, you're Atlas over there.
Yeah.
What?
Everywhere I turn, I see everywhere I look, I see him, and it's just Atlas. I think I like this better than Persona 5 Royal, personally. I think it very well could be better, like in my both opinion and personal like taste, right? There's like, you know, how much you like something versus how good you think it is. I think those are separate things that are often correlated, but not always.
Sure.
I've really loved things that are not as good as the amount I love them, like Epic Mickey, you know? I love Epic Mickey. He's fine. It's a good game, but it's not like it's fine. Like, it is fine to good. And I'm like, man, y'all gotta get on this Epic Mickey. I'm sure we'll talk about Epic Mickey later once I can get back to playing more Epic Mickey. That's really what I want to do. Fuck Metaphor Fantagio. It's all about the Epic Mickey.
That's crazy. He said no one ever.
Yeah, no, but like I think it might be better. I think really what wins this over for me a bit is the mechanics, which I think this game is getting very praised for its story, rightfully so. It seems really interesting. I'm genuinely compelled by it. The thing I keep going back to, where in both the story, I think, and the mechanics, it kind of hits a little bit better for me than Persona 5, because the way I compared it is, while this is an oversimplification, and the story is better than the way I'm describing it now, but all Persona's narrative, it is really well constructed and really cool, because they kind of do the game, it takes place like after the game happens. Like, it's very obvious from the jump. It's basically like you got caught
up.
Like
a How I Met Your Mother kind of thing?
It is actually like How I Met Your Mother, where it's like, okay, like you start off in the sort of like the police interrogation room, where they're like, okay, they know that you've been like up to some shit. Like, they don't really know what's going down, but they know. They're like, do you want to talk to me about what happened with this guy? Okay. And then you go and you play through it. And it's honestly a really brilliant construction. It really helps with like a long game that you're slowly coming back to, because you keep getting reminded of different things. Like, it's very well crafted. But I think one of the less interesting aspects of the story is like every dungeon you do, the whole theme of Persona 5 Royal is like you're going into these dungeons that represent people's like kind of consciousnesses, and you're trying to like change their heart. So you like defeat the kind of evil version of them in a way, or like the embodiment of like with their evil, like their bad desires. And in doing that, you get them to have a change of heart, and they like confess their sins in some way and like repent, basically. And that's the game. But that does make for like the reveals to be not that interesting, because it's like every in every dungeon almost feels like standalone. I'm sure maybe they will interconnect in some bigger way, or there'll be like bigger plot lines that appear. I've only done 3 dungeons in a game, despite being 70 hours in, which is insane. But I spend a lot of time, like, I'll stop and be like, when's the last time y'all had a now and later? And then I'll just be talking for like 10 minutes. So that's kind of why it's taking so long.
Okay, that's fair.
But it is also just a long game. You know, I mean, this game, it took 16-ish hours to do the first dungeon. So it's like the math isn't actually that crazy or anything about that. But yeah, everything is kind of the same. It's like, okay, this guy was evil. I mean, maybe it's interesting to see how he recants or what happens after, but there's not really like a bigger interesting through line. I think the most like interesting mystery that Persona 5 Royal presents is, hey, what's up with like the fact that we are like the Phantom Thieves and what's going on with like in Persona, instead of having academia, which is like this book place that you go to do your stuff, whatever, you get your powers. In Persona, you have the Velvet Room, and there's like this weird guy named Igor, and like these little girls who are like, hello, prisoner. And then you're like trying to, I don't know, it's kind of weird. And maybe I'm just like not following it well enough, but like it's kind of this weird, like you are doing this to like repent for your sins, which is like kind of strange. And it's a very antagonistic like environment, like, and it's very dark and like gritty. It's like the way you like modify your personas, which is basically like your archetypes, like your classes and powers, is like you can like meld them together by like killing them in a guillotine, and then it creates a new one. It's like, you know, it's a little edgy.
Oh, okay. All right.
And it's like, though the music slaps in there. Like, oh my God, so good in the Velvet Room. I love the music in the Velvet Room. But yeah, it's just kind of it's a different tone, and I think it's less interesting throughout. While in this game, like one of the big mysteries that it puts forth is, you know, without spoiling it or kind of spending a lot of time explaining the story, it's like, okay, the king has this will, you know, he's passed on. That happens like in the first like 2 seconds of the game. It's like he's dead. Oh, but he's still like, he kind of, through his magic, he's kind of has this force. What is his will? Why is he doing the things he's doing? Does he know? He almost has like this again is very tropey, but he almost has like that Yoda Dumbledore vibe to him of like, I feel like you know more than you're sharing with other people, and you're kind of an asshole for it, but I'm like curious, and you're clearly really powerful, so what's up with that? And then there's also additional mysteries of if they're kind of having this big election in the town, like how are we going to go about, you know, stopping the election? Like, are we trying to save the prince before the election happens? Are we trying to get elected? Question mark. Like, there's kind of, I feel like an implication of that in the stats. And then it's like, well, is the real final boss going to be like currying the people's favor? Like, there's just a lot more, I think, upfront mystery and intrigue to what's going down. Even like the stuff that, again, without spoiling it, the stuff they do with like the first dungeon when you like, because you finished the first dungeon, I think, right? Like, I feel like in most games they would make the through line a little bit more obvious, like, and now we know we have to go here. Now we go here. And here it's a little bit more, it takes a while to reveal that kind of stuff. And I feel like in most video games, and this is fine, this is like a valid narrative construction because you have this in books where it's like, I forgot the name for it, but where it's like you as the reader know more than the character. There's a word for it, but I forget it. Like that's very common in games. Most games, it's like, why are you you know, we joked about this when we were playing Silent Hill, right? Like, you don't know this was clearly a scam, you know, obviously, and you know, horror has its own kind of cheekiness to it. But here, I feel like I'm really in the story because I don't know and they don't know. Like, and I think that's really hard to do where it's not like also, I don't know, overly dense either. Like, I follow the story very clearly. I just am curious as to like, how are we going to pull this off? And like, where might the story take us? And I don't know those answers. And that's really exciting to me because in most games, you know those answers right away. It's like, oh, I kill 5 and I get the 5 crystals and I put the crystals in my Vobel sword or whatever. And then and maybe at the end, oh, the sword is dying of its magic. And then somebody's tears bring it back or some bullshit. But like this goes beyond that, I think.
Yeah, I think, and it seems like this is a Persona or a Atlas thing more than like metaphor specifically. One of the things I like about the narrative for these games is that the time of the game is the time of the game. Whereas, like you mentioned, in a lot of games, when you complete one objective, another objective will immediately pop up. You know exactly where you need to go next. This game, they'll let you just like sit. Like if something happens on the 20th and you beat the boss on the 17th, you then just have 2 days to do what you want before like the next major beat happens. And that I think is really interesting. That's, to me, one of the more interesting aspects of this game, like narratively, where it's like, oh, like there's like almost like
downtime.
They railroad you to the story they want to tell, but every so often they just get off. Like they make a stop. I mean, it's like a cruise. You know, you can.
It really is like a cruise.
And you know, you can get off. You can explore the area, do what you want. But hey, the horn's blowing. Let's get on this train. Let's get on out of here. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that's really cool.
That's a great way to describe it. Yeah, that's exactly how it is. And then I got to end up inadvertently caught up in the story. I forgot to talk about the mechanical thing that I think is better to me from Persona is that you can just do a lot more with the characters. Like in Persona 5 Royal, the only one I can speak to because it's the only one I played, your main character, Joker, he can have like a bunch of personas, like 10 or something. The number might be wrong, but whatever. And it's like, okay, I'm swapping those all the time to like deal with enemies. And it's a lot of the same stuff, like, you know, weak to fire, weak to ice, weak to whatever, null to magic, okay, stuff like that. But I'm mostly just switching Joker's personas because he's the only one that can switch. Everybody else only has the one. And the one gains additional abilities, but it's pretty slow to gain. And they're usually, now the wind is stronger or whatever. It's like, you don't really have a lot of stuff. So it really does come down to Joker for a lot of the more dynamic stuff. And here, everyone can switch, you know, to make it simpler classes, basically, you know, and personas, here it's archetypes.
Well, I have a question for you then. In Persona, are you then like more swapping out your party?
Yeah, a little bit. You do gain,
okay.
Not really spoilers for Persona because it's like, I don't know, it's kind of, you can kind of see it coming, and then I feel like those are also things that you pick up on the internet, or like for me, I make my thumbnails. I'm like, okay, I'm guessing this person's in my Yeah, you do eventually gain like a party that is bigger than what you can fight with. I think you fight with, I want to say you fight with 4 people. And like right now, my party's probably like 5 or 6 or something. It's like we had Joker on, that one guy, Morgana, and I have 6 people right now.
Okay.
So you can only have a team of 4. So you do swap them out. And there's like, you can use some moves outside of battle. So like if you have a healing and then it's like on somebody else, so you can still use that. So that's kind of cool. But like you do end up swapping people out a little bit more. But at the end of the day, like they still only have their abilities. So it's not like I don't necessarily go into a dungeon and I'm like, okay, I really need, I mean, I guess I could do this if I Googled ahead of time or something. I really need On because On has fire. It's more just like because also Joker probably has fire too because he probably has a persona that has fire. So it doesn't really end up, and then it's more Pokemon-like than Metaphor is because you're like gaining, like the enemies you kill, those can become like masks that form personas. So like you can kill somebody and then it's like there's like some fairy persona or something. And it's like, okay, you can gain it, like you can rob the enemy, you can like be the shit out of the enemy, or you can like gain the enemy to your thing. Like when you like stick them up, basically. Yeah, literally. Like you can, and these are parts where I do think, I know for some people they're like, this game's so good and it's so quality of life that like going back to 5 World would like suck. And I do think that like I'll be very curious if you end up doing that because then we can really get that perspective. Yeah. But I think there will be things you miss, but there are also things it does do differently that are interesting and different and exciting. But overall, I think because you are constantly swapping a bunch of personas for Joker, I find myself spending a lot more time in the menus than I do in Metaphor ReFantazio. Or Metaphor ReFantazio, you pull up to a scenario, you kind of already know, okay, it's wind. Okay, well, I got 2 people got wind, and then these people have melee, and you kind of are already, everything you have to work with is already in front of you. Well, when I'm playing Persona, I feel a lot more like I'm fanning out a bunch of cards and like constantly re-looking at them and being like, okay, well, who do I have here? Okay, well, we're going to move. He's going to use this persona. Okay, but then maybe I'm going to swap out this one. And it's like, that kind of takes a long time, especially for me because I am just slower to strategize than other people are. While here, it's like, again, you already you have who you have.
Yeah.
And also you can hot swap them really quickly, easily. Like it's just, it's a really fun time.
It's really fun.
I think if you were open to turn-based combat that has like an elemental emphasis, which is a pretty simplistic emphasis to have, you should at least try it out. There's a demo available. I actually just tweeted about this before we started the show, but the demo is like 4 to 6 hours of time.
Yeah. I was at 6 hours, and this was me skipping cutscenes because I saw the cutscenes in your playthrough.
On that note, I do have a question for you before we like go past the Metaphor ReFantazio part of the show. How did you feel about the opening? Because there is like I don't want to call it a debate online. It sounds more dramatic, but some people were like, the opening's really slow. Like those first 2 hours or like whatever. Like what were your thoughts? And it's tough because you kind of watched me play and then you played it. So I don't know. But.
I guess so. But it's slow in the sense that like they're doing world building, like which I feel like inherently just is going to take some time. They're introducing you to characters, they're letting you know how this world works. There's all these tribes they introduce you to, and the social economical standings of things, and like all this stuff they introduce you to that I think you can't really like speed through. And then on top of that, they're also introducing you to the game's mechanics, which like for me as a first time player of an Atlas game, I need it. So it's not like maybe there are some things you could have skipped if having played Persona before. So I don't know. I wouldn't say it's slow. I would say it's no. Look, again, coming from Final Fantasy VII, where that game drags left and right to introduce you to things, I think this is totally fine. I don't have any problem with the introduction.
I do think the opening of Rebirth is faster than the opening of Metaphor, and I actually really like the opening of Rebirth. I think they do a great job. Like, I think most of the story, which is kind of the problem I have with Rebirth, we get a lot of nice narrative up front in the beginning of Rebirth of like, and especially for a newcomer, I'm like, okay, now I really see who Sephiroth is, what's going on with him, all that vibe. And then we have like a big chunk of time without any story progress, and you get a couple little things from the side characters of like, it's fun to see like why Barrett has a gun arm, like, and that is fun. I'm not gonna lie, that was a great scene. I think that I don't think you actually got to the stuff I'm talking like about. You're like right there. Genuinely very moving, very well acted, but that took like a lot of hours for me to get to, and nothing really happened in between. But anyway, this is not a drag Rebirth time, but I do think to Rebirth's credit, it's a little zippier, but it's also like not more simplistic, but it's a it's a different thing. It's a continuation of like an existing story that's also a retelling of an existing story, so it's kind of got other things going on for it. But yeah, I wonder if we're just broken. I always like to try to look at that other perspective. I think I might just be enough of a nerd where I'm like, this was a regular day for me.
Yeah, no, I thought it was great.
Yeah, like I personally liked the opening. I didn't feel like it was boring at all, or like I didn't really clock like how long the cutscenes were because, again, I've been playing Persona 5 and I spent a lot of time in that game where I'm like, all right, guys, we're watching a movie together and I'm just chilling. I love Kojima growing up. He's nothing but fucking cutscene bullshit. So I got no problem putting my controller down and hitting the auto and just kind of taking it in, I
think it would also be different if I felt the story was boring. I'm genuinely intrigued by the story and Metaphor.
Yeah.
So like, if they're giving me background and introducing characters, I'm with it. I'm here for it.
I think the anime styled cutscenes are also like a nice touch.
Also great. Yeah.
Where it really does feel like you really are just watching a little TV show for a second in it. And then of course I do have to mention on the show that you were watching me play Metaphor and you're like, yeah, you watch anime. This is anime.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. So I'm actually just one of y'all. Didn't really realize it, but the more I look, anime is literally in so many of my games, and I'm like, damn, y'all got me. This is how you guys win. So, but I really enjoy it, and I think, regardless of where you end up landing on Metaphor or ReFantazio, for people listening, I think if you're at all interested, you're hearing a lot of hype, play through the demo, ideally in its entirety. I mean, maybe not the last 3 days if you really don't want to. Like, play to the prologue, and if you don't like it, it's like very appropriate to just be like, you know what? I don't rock with it. It's either I think it's bad or it's not for me, whatever you want to label it as. Like, I think that is a good college try and a good representation of what the game is, which, I think it's great, but obviously like there are people that don't like great games, love bad it cuts so many ways. So, it
might not be for you.
Yeah. Or you might think it's bad, which I feel like you're wrong, but you're welcome to think it. Like, skin off my back, skin off my teeth, hair off
skin off
something.
my nose.
It's no, I don't give a fuck, basically, what you think of this game.
Something like that.
Like, which kind of evergreen comment. I mean, I'm interested to hear people's thoughts because I like talking about games, but it does not make a difference for me. But speaking of games that may or may not be bad, we did our first together game jam. You've jammed before.
I've jammed before.
It was my first jam.
It was your first jam. Most of this topic, I think, is going to be me curious to see what you think, how you feel having done your first jam. What was the jam and how'd you find it? Very quickly, the jam was the React Game Jam Fall 2024. It's a jam that happens at least a couple times a year. I think at least twice, if not 3 or 4 times for each season. But it's a jam where you make a game with React.js, which is like a web technology framework library thing. It's what I use for my day job. If you need freelancing and web development, hit me up. But it is not a traditional game technology, right? It's not Unity, it's not Unreal, it's not Godot or Game Maker, or any of these like traditional game engine systems. It's a web system, right? And so I thought this was going to be interesting because one, it is what I know, right? It's my bread and butter technology wise. Two, the Stacks game that I'm working on is also using React, and I was like, oh, you know what, this could be a cool way to experiment with some stuff there. Maybe, loosen up my creative mind to like doing some of the stuff that I need to do in Stacks. I can like use this jam as an excuse to, play around with some new stuff. And then also introduce you to jams, which I guess you've known of jams before, like maybe even like played some jam games and stuff.
I love playing jam games.
But you've never participated in a jam.
Correct.
When I brought this idea of doing a jam to you, what was your thought? Like, what were you thinking? Were you excited? Were you iffy? I'm curious to know what your thoughts about all of this was.
Yeah. With a jam, so my skill set is writing based. I don't code. I don't do art. So I mostly just write.
Music? You get into music?
I can, I guess. I can do. Yeah, you know what?
There you go. You can.
I can do music, I guess. Yeah, I do have some songs on my my voice notes.
Me and my cats will flop off.
Yeah. Just wait. It's gonna take a while for it to drop, but I'm working on it. I'm kind of working on it. I've written some notes anyway, but yeah. So I definitely was. I think when you approached me with this idea, I was generally down. I think it's it's a cool project. I also have a lot of faith in you as a developer. Which, no offense to everyone else on the planet or anything, but like I feel like. I know you can make stuff. I've seen you make things. So it's like, okay, cool. We have slightly less unknown variables. Obviously, it's still going to be like a task to make it. You'll have challenges, but like, it's not like it's your first time making anything. Not that that should discourage anyone from doing it, but as someone that's new to it, I think it's always a benefit when you can mix, the new with the base skill line. And I feel like that me joining you on a jam was kind of that, where it's like, okay, I've never really done stuff like this, but I know that you can like make stuff. You've made little games before for school projects or for fun. So cool. Definitely I was curious as to how big my role would end up being depending on the kind of game that was being made. Like the first time we were thinking of doing a jam that we ended up not doing because we got busy with like my family and stuff. It was going to be like you were working on like a kind of Fallout Shelter-esque game. Like that was your idea. Yeah. And then my role in that game would have been a lot more minimal because it would have been things like, background writing that maybe wouldn't make it into the game, but would inform the world of the game, and like coming up with you were going to do it like in a mall, and I was going to come up with maybe the store names for like the shops and stuff like that. Yeah. So that would be a pretty easy like lift. So I was curious as to what my role would end up being in this. And then we were able to even do this jam, or it was a lot easier to do the jam because unfortunately with like the hurricanes and stuff, we weren't able to go to, you and I were supposed to go to Asheville, North Carolina for like my job. We were going to do a big meetup there. That got canceled. But in that getting canceled, we gained more time to be able to actually even do this jam. And I had a really busy week, the week that we were working on it. I think I was playing Metaphor ReFantazio, honestly. So like basically TLDR is we carved out 4 work sessions, like a Monday to figure out what the game is, a Wednesday to work, a Friday to work, and a Sunday to work with it due on Monday. And I guess, how do you feel about what was it like working? It's weird to be like, what was it like working with me? But I guess like, what's your background in jams? Like, what kind of team members do you normally work with, if anybody? And what was like, I don't know, like bringing me into the fold?
So historically, most of my jams I've come at solo, either, using maybe some asset packs for art and sounds, and me just like doing the coding and game design stuff, like cranking it out myself. I think the beauty of having you there was, one, just someone to bounce ideas off of. Like the idea we landed on, which I'll let you explain in a bit. Okay. I would have never got there on my own. Like that just would have never been something I would have thought to do, let alone felt I had the like skill set to execute on. So that was really exciting. But then two, I think, I don't know, just having you there is also just nice in a collaborative work environment, right? Like, again, most of my jams I've done solo. You maybe meet up with other people who are also jamming, and so like you're in like a group space where everyone's kind of like working separately together kind of thing. But it was nice having someone working together on things where it's like, oh, like, hey, like, how far did you get? Like at the end of our work sessions, we'd be like, okay, like what'd you come up with? You'd show me what you came up with. I'd show you what I came up with, and be like, all right, cool. Like I'd do a check-in, like, hey, how are we feeling? Are we on track? Do we need to scope down? The answer was yes.
The answer is always yes.
Always yes. Scope down.
The answer is always yes.
But like having that was nice and something that I didn't really have before because I would always go solo.
Yeah. For me, it was really fun. I had a really good time doing the jam.
You struggled in the beginning. I remember you.
Oh, with the writing?
Yeah.
It was definitely like way more. It was way more work than I thought it would be. And not that we always talk about on the show and forever, like how hard game development is and all this stuff. But it's different when you actually go to do it. I think it's the same way how like people say like, it's really hard to run a marathon. Obviously, I'm a marathoner. But actually doing it, it's not like necessarily like, wow, in a way it'll be harder than you think, but there's a difference between theoretical difficulty and practical difficulty where it just like hits more personal. Like you can kind of see like, why is it hard though? You don't really understand why it's hard because you're not doing it. So it's like, okay, like what kind of stuff comes up? This was also fun, really fun for me. Like the brainstorming was really fun because I feel like I was able to go back into my teaching bag a little bit, even though you know more than me about like development just inherently, but I know structured questions.
Yeah.
I know like amount of time for brainstorm. I know like I don't know, like I'm used to structuring that kind of thing. Let alone like, oh, and you're a willing participant. Like this is gonna be easy. Like, versus like students where it's like, oh, some kids are interested, some kids aren't. Some kids are like,
words, man. This will be easy.
Yeah. Well, it's easy to like talk to you about it. It's like, oh, this part's easy. Like working with somebody who's interested, because I can construct like, teachers know this all the time. You can make the world's greatest lesson plan, but if your kids don't give a fuck about it, it might not be effective because like it takes everybody involved to like learn and work together. But yeah, like getting to come up with like the guided questions on, what the theme of the React Jam was, retro minimalism. So we like looked into like, okay, what does retro conjure up? What does minimalism conjure up? Okay, what are some examples? Like we started looking at like, some sample games that we feel like exist in the world that represent that, and all these other things was really fun. We landed on doing, this is so funny because it's like just based on my life, really, a game like Inbox Zero, the game, where the original idea, I think, was to have a bunch of like, you get a bunch of emails all the time, and it's like you're trying to figure out which ones you want to give attention to, but there are consequences to what stuff you might miss, or things that might fall through the cracks, or things that you have to neglect to get to other things that might be more important. And you can kind of see those play out narratively through like consequences or through like other emails that might trigger as a response to like previous emails, that kind of thing. And that was the idea baseline, I would say. I don't know if there's anything you'd want to add to that initial pitch.
No, that sounds right. It was originally very much almost like
Emily's Away kind of core,
like narrative story management kind of thing, where like you have a set number of resource, like a resource being time here.
Emily's Away meets Papers, Please, and this new indie hit.
Inbox Zero. Yeah. What do we actually make?
We made a job. We made a job simulator that doesn't actually like give you any feedback, essentially. But so our original dream was to make this like a 5-day work week that ended, at the end of the work week. And then literally the second we started writing it, I said, Isaiah, we got to scale this down because I'm like, this is too much writing to have to do, because there's just like a lot at play with writing the stuff, kind of coming up with like who the characters. So we settled on like, oh, it's like you're working at a job, and that's like where this takes place and stuff. And it's like coming up with the characters and and then how our thing is going to feed into each other and like loop against each other and all of that. Like it just was. I mean, this is gonna be way too many emails to have to write if we're gonna make it like somewhat interesting where there's more than like 2 emails a day, you know, because I think the goal was to do like maybe like 10 emails a day, and you can like only respond to 6 though. So it's like you have to kind of figure out what you're not responding to. But I'm like, okay, if we're doing that's like 50 emails, hell no, I ain't writing 50 emails because it's like it was too hard to construct even the ones I was constructing. So we dialed it down to initially 3 days, and I'm like, what if we started work on a Wednesday? Like there's a company holiday the first 2 days. And then by the end of the jam, it was 1 day, specifically because of the challenges of like, I think at first like we were maybe going down to only like 2 days, like 2 days of emails. And then the last day you kind of get the results on Friday. But then we scaled that down to just 1 day and then the results, because basically I feel like we did that because I was talking to you about whether or not you'd be able to really chain them together. And I think there was some doubt in you being able to chain them in the amount of time. So I actually wrote way more than what I know the writers who work in development are like screaming listening to this, but I actually ended up writing way more than what went into the game. But yeah, and honestly, we were really close to executing a form of our vision, but you weren't able to get the slideshow like end results kind of working of like where I wrote like all these things to be like, okay, and if you answer these things, it's going to go here. And then like, but also shout out to you because besides the fact that, you know, worked on this game and made this whole thing, you took this across the finish line because I like got my flu shot and COVID vaccine that day and like that last day. And I had finished my part of the jam, but in my dream world, I would have wanted to at least stay like working while you're working in solidarity. Cause I feel like that's if I can't like physically help you do the work, I feel like the least I can do is be there. And then I'm like, nah, I'm good. So you were up till like 3 or 4 in the morning, just like.
Yeah, no, submission ended
submitting
at
it
5 and I submitted at 4:45 a.m. Like I was up.
Wow.
All night.
I haven't had that since college where it's like right before.
Facts.
But what was your experience like doing this jam?
Good. It was the first jam I've done in a long. Like I haven't done a jam in a long time, so it was nice to kind of just like reintroduce myself to the sort of speedy, rough.
What's insane to me is this jam. It was like a 7-day jam.
It was a 10-day jam.
10-day jam
that we
started a little late. Yeah,
and only took 4 days to really do still, which is still a good amount of time.
We took more like. Technically, like there was like 6 days passed, but we only worked on it for like 4 days or whatever. Because we started working on it on Monday.
Yes, over the whole 10 days, we worked 4 days of the 10 days.
Yeah, but sorry to like cut you off, but the thing I want to interject is that this really blew my mind in terms of the people that do like the 1-day jam.
Yeah,
I'm like,
the 1 or 2 day jams,
God,
like the weekend ones.
How are you guys doing that?
And I want to say, I think a lot of the at least more popular jams have moved away from that towards a little bit longer to give people a little bit more break, make sure they sleep, make sure they eat, they, you know, drink water, go outside, exercise. Like I think most popular jams you come across are now like 3 to 4 days because of that. But yeah, no, I mean, there are still 24-hour jams that happen and 48-hour jams that happen and people make and submit a lot of cool stuff. It's really impressive. But yeah, so, for me, it was nice to get back into it. I was able to, like I said, learn some new tech that I want to use with like stacks and stuff like that, as well as just like, I don't know, be there with your introduction into jams and like, you know, answer your questions you had a lot of and like work with you on like, oh, so like, would, you know, you asked me about like submitting and it's like, I don't know, we'll figure that out when we get to submitting part. Like there's a sense of scrappiness that comes with jams that I missed and forgot until I was back into the heat of it with this jam. That said, I think for our next jam, we'll be better. We'll be way more prepared. We'll have a better idea of how to do things in general, both from a like technical sense, but also from just like a production sense. Yeah. I think as a quick tip, just for future me and any listeners and viewers out there, it's like get a just end-to-end working version as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Because then you just iterate on making each of the individual parts of it better. Whereas in this jam, I found my big downfall was doing decent quality front to back.
Yeah.
And I got to the end and didn't have enough time to finish the last segment.
I'm thinking about, like, I had to chuckle specifically at you looking at those avatars where you're like, I want to integrate these avatars. I'm like, Isaiah, I think this is an easy thing to cut out.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we need to be doing this. I will say what you made, it looks really good.
Yeah.
But then when you start playing it, you realize this isn't really. This is a game.
Is that a game?
I want you to open your mind up to what a game could be with this game. Okay. Like, you ever play something and you're like, is this even a game? This is going to revolutionize how you conceive of what a game could be. And also maybe what a game isn't, which is maybe what we made. But it looks really good. You basically made like a very Gmail looking kind of thing. And then, we have the link in the show notes if you want to go check it out. Check out like what we made, even though it's maybe not a game, but
you can play what we made.
The fact that you have
this link will also be updated as we make progress. I do want to keep working on it.
Yeah, I'd like to put this into like eventually like an itch.io and kind of make our little, BB Studios page or whatever. But it looks really good. Like, you get started and you can click the emails and the email. Like, I think you did a great job in the look of it. It was just a lot of fun. I think getting creative and like dreaming it up sort of, even though, this is a very based in reality kind of game, where it's like I got a lot of ideas from like looking at LinkedIn, and then I like went to my own inbox and looked at the kind of emails I get, and I try to think of the kind of people that might be working on like an office like this, and what their archetypes are, not the metaphoric kind, but the the kind of archetypal characters there are and stuff like that, and thinking of just other things. And it was really fun. And I think one thing I sort of learned that is kind of common sense, I think, if you do any type of fiction, but I don't really work in fiction, so it was sort of new to me, is really thinking about like the background stuff. Like, in order to write like the basic things that you see, it's like I had to think about like, well, what kind of company is this? Like, what's their vibe? Like, what's, what are these people's motivations? What are their attitudes? And how does that inform like what they might write and things? But I really liked our dumb, like, the company name Moy Snacks. And Moy Snacks, very yum. Or Moy is just yum backwards. Like, I got a big kick out of making up that kind of stuff. It was fun. I feel like it was a way to, I've been really flexing like my creative muscles here this year with like the more tabletop-y stuff. Like, and I feel like this jam was kind of an extension of that. And it was fun. And I said it privately, but I'd like to bring it to the show as well. I'm very proud of you submitting it. I think a year or two ago, you would have not submitted this and you would have just said, I didn't finish it. But you submitted it, and that was like our goal. Like, that for me, that was my number one goal. I'm like, because Isaiah, like, when we started this, you stepped to me and you're like, like, I forgot how you phrased it, but you're like, this could fail. And I'm like, I'm letting you know now, I don't want to do this if we're not committed to really making a genuine effort to submit it no matter what. And obviously things can happen, like things can literally break, or like there can be things that, or, an emergency could happen. Like someone ends up in the hospital. Yeah, I'm not going to be mad that we didn't finish the jam, like, whatever. But I'm like, if things are regular life, we are submitting something because that is what we set out to do. And we did that. And I'm very proud of that. And I'm very proud of you for that, because that is a big, I got no problem putting trash out there. My haters will say all my content's trash, right? Like, I don't care. I'm putting stuff out. I'm making things. I posted my poorly edited joke on TikTok with the Alarmo attached to Drake, and it's all,
oh man, that was so good.
It's badly rigged, but I'm like, you know what? I'm putting it out there. And like, that is my ethos as a creator. And that is something that I think you have historically really struggled with. You are a man of polish, and I am, a rat of content. And I think together we can make
a rat of polish.
Yeah, we can make some really cool stuff. So yeah, I just, I wanted to shout that out, because that is a huge step for you to take.
I'm glad we did it. It was very funny. The one of the judges.
Oh my God. Go ahead.
One of the judges for the game jam like reached out to us like the day
Via
after
email, so
submission.
metatextual, you know?
Yeah, no fact. Emailed us after. It was like, hey, so I'm so and so, one of the judges for the game jam. I'm kind of reaching out to see like, is everything okay? Like, is this intended? We kind of hit like a wall when trying to demo or like trying to like play through the game where we read all the emails and like nothing happens. We don't know if that's intended or is that a bug? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So it was very funny getting that, replying with, oh yeah, like we weren't able to, it's supposed to end in like a slideshow.
Makes you think, huh?
Yeah. I should have left them on red. It was like, oh, this is the real game. Before in Bug Zero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Episode title.
Yeah. It was very good. Thank you. I'm proud of myself for submitting something, even if it was not finished completely to my liking. It was still more than I would have done otherwise, and yeah, it was a good time. Would you do another jam?
Oh, absolutely.
Do we want to actively look for more jams, or do we want to wait until I come across a jam and I bring it to you? What's your thoughts here? What is Team BB Jam?
I think that sounds delicious. Some BB jam. I think you can actively look for jams. I will say it's tough in that like you need a little bit of like a more flexible schedule. Like, but though I also think it's something that I fall victim of a lot, or I like a bad habit I have of like almost waiting for like a good time to do it. But like I never have like a bunch of time just sitting around. Like this is not how my life and work and stuff works. So I want to find like that happy middle ground of like being a little cautious of some of the bigger, things. But at the same time, it's like, that's why I just did this one. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to force the 3 days. I'm going to be tired when we sit down to work on it, and I'm just going to do it because otherwise it's not going to get done. So yeah, I think this would honestly, the rest of this year, since it's already almost over, we're in quarter 4 already of the year. I think doing a couple other jams would be really good just to make like this our like jam year almost. And then we can take like the next year to maybe like spend more time working on like the Inbox Zero game, or maybe there's another game that we find more passionate about that maybe we're closer to. And obviously I really want you to finish Stacks, and I'm more than happy to just like either work with you on my own stuff while you're doing Stacks, or I could work on our game while you're doing Stacks, and it's like we can be developing 2 games at once, like yeah. So or even just working on maybe the sort of more like PR-y side of Stacks, or just like getting the page written up on like what the game is, like getting instructions or stuff like that. Ways that I can help you get that across the finish line, because genuinely, like, I think Stacks is really fun. I'm so excited to play Stacks when it's out. Like, I know no one's gonna believe me, and that's also why I'm not gonna talk about it like on my other shows, because it's like it sounds just really fake. But like, yeah, like I genuinely think it's a really fun game. Like it's fun. It's like fun the way it's not as good as Finity, but it's fun the way Finity is to me. I really like Stacks, and I'm excited for that to get. And I really want you to also like have your game that's finished.
Sure. Yeah. No, I think that'll be one of the biggest. Takeaways from it all is like, hey,
I can't wait for us to do a con one day for your game. I don't know if you'd want to take Stacks to a con, but
oh man, maybe, I don't know.
I
never thought that far.
yeah, we can go to Staples and get a Stacks banner, and get some stuff. Like, and I me, I love decorating, so we can decorate the booth and stuff. And I'm like,
that's true.
Hey, I'm like, I'm like, you want to say hi to me? I'll be at the Stacks booth. Like. I'm like, hey, while you're saying hello, have you had time to play Stacks yet? And
that's true.
Fall into my web. But that was the React Jam. And now for our not game section, we have the perfect transitional topic nod. We don't spend a lot of time on this. Somebody tweeted this at me, and I'm sorry that I can't remember who sent it, where they're like, this is a games and not games story. And I'm like, oh my God, the perfect piece of content. Alarmo. Nintendo is making an alarm clock called Alarmo. They made. Yeah, they're like, it's ready now.
Yeah,
it's $100.
God.
What are your thoughts on Alarmo? We don't gotta spend a lot of time on it, but I do want to give it a tip of the Mario cap to Alarmo.
So it's an alarm clock that uses like sensors to see if you're in bed still, and it plays music from some popular hit Mario game, some don't make a lot of sense to me in their choice of game, but some games from the Mario, mostly Switch platform, actually all Switch platform.
From just Nintendo games.
Yeah.
There's Mario Odyssey. There's Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, not Tears of the Kingdom.
Kingdom.
Breath of the Wild. And yeah, so it plays the music from the games, and then if you don't get up after a while, it like intensifies and plays more dramatic music from the game. Like
it plays sound effects from the game.
Yeah. Well, it plays sound effects as you move, but if you don't get up, the music that it, like the alarm.
I think they're kind of synonymous-ish.
Well, I thought it was like, it would be like the equivalent of like playing the, you know, do 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 do, like that's the regular alarm. As you move and stir in bed, it plays like coin, like you know, like bling bling. But then like after a certain point, it'd be like dun 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 dun. And it like does like the sped up version.
I know for the Pikmin, you start to hear Pikmin die.
Yeah,
over time.
it sounds like a fucking sci-fi movie. The animal has escaped. The monster has escaped its containment unit, and all sirens are blaring.
Seeing the videos of the Alarmo now in action has been a real treat and a half, because it's wild stuff.
Yeah.
But it's there if you want it. Maybe you're just, you know what? I don't know. I've bought dumb stuff.
Yeah.
Some people will argue what we bought was dumb that we're going to talk about. I wouldn't. I think it's awesome.
The monkey's paw curled its finger when we were like, we're getting new Nintendo hardware this year. And it was like, okay.
Yeah. It's an alarm clock.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's time to wake up because our season tickets to the Galaxy are here. Well, they're not really here, but they're coming.
Fantastic transition.
Yes, thank you. Everyone, wake up! New season ticket holders just dropped, and it's us.
We're season ticket holders for the 2025 Los Angeles Galaxy MLS team season. We thought about doing this. We've been thinking about this for a while.
Yeah,
I think like they also like the LA Galaxy, they sell season tickets so you can get, you know, every home game, you know, concerts at the stadium, like, you know, normal season ticket holder things. But then they also sell just like ticket packs, basically, where it's like, oh, maybe I don't want like a full season pass kind of thing, but maybe I want like a half dozen games or even like 3-game bundle or something like that. You can also buy basically bundles of tickets. We ultimately landed on getting the season ticket. And why is that?
I would say that we landed on that to like read script. I'm like, oh God, why did we get these? I feel like to commit almost in the way that you sign up for a gym, which don't at me about when the last time I went to my gym was.
I wasn't gonna.
We're right around the corner.
I wasn't gonna.
From our gym renaissance. Just wait. You can't see, but I'm actually really bummed. It's underneath the hoodie. It's all underneath the surface. But yeah, just almost like in a gym way though, with the idea of like committing to something. I do think I know a lot of people would argue that you can't buy your way into like a new life, but I want to argue against that.
That's not like broke mentality right there. All right, you can definitely buy your way into a new life.
I think you can and you can't, right? Like buying is not enough. You do have to like do the whatever work it is or show up or whatever. But to me, sometimes a purchase can be a level of commitment. And to me, us buying these season tickets, it's like, hey, we're really enjoying watching this team. We've gone to quite a few games at this point. We went into at least 2, maybe 3 regular season games, and the Chivas versus Galaxy game as well. So in total, we've gone to definitely at least 3 games, maybe 4.
Yeah.
This year, and you know, so that's already like quite a number of games already. And then just the idea of getting this over the bundle, even though it's like, oh, are we going to go to every game? Realistically, we'll probably miss at least 1, maybe 2, just from scheduling reasons. But this kind of is like, okay, we're going to set out to do this. This is going to be also our investment in having fun. It's like, what do you want to do for fun? And
I think it's a great excuse every week during the season. Yeah. It's like, hey, there's something twice a week, almost even sometimes, like something we can do. Yeah,
like this is what we are investing our money in. You know, I'm a big fan of food, so going out to eat at a restaurant is always fun. You know, I'm a big fan. We're fans of lots of things, right? But I think, to me, this is, we have fun at home. Like, we have the season. If you want to have fun, that's why we got these tickets. Like, and not like we're not allowed to do anything. You know, I still really want us to do different, you know, trips and things, or maybe go to the movies now and then. But it's kind of like, that's the commitment. Like, that's also why I don't have AMC stubs anymore, where I'm like, if I have it, that's going to be where I'm investing my time. Obviously, the price differential is huge, so they're not the same thing. But it's the idea of like, for at least this next year, this is going to be where we're at, what we're doing. This is our standing date night together.
Yeah.
Going to see these games and getting all in on it, getting really into it. And that's kind of what drove us there. But what, is there anything you want to add to like what spurred you to also sort of take this leap?
Yeah, for me, I also think in general, like Jenna said, like we've been watching the games, we've gone to a couple games. This is my first real foray into being a sports team fan. And I know that's crazy being born and raised in Buffalo with the Buffalo Bills, which is like its
Bills
own
Mafia
cult, basically. Yeah, like if you're a Bills fan, you're do or die for Bills forever. And I never got into football really. Like I played football, we play like street football and stuff like that, but I never really got into like the NFL and like watching.
Street.
Yeah, I never got into watching the NFL. Never had a real team. You watch the Super Bowl every year and stuff like that, but like never. I don't know. It was just something about it. I just never drew me in. It wasn't until meeting you and like you and Edwin, watching you guys play, getting more introduced into the world of soccer, and like I was like, you know what, I'm gonna give this thing an honest try, which we talked about in the other episode where we talked about soccer and everything. It's like I'm gonna give this the old college try. I'm gonna really give it its fair share of like attention, to watch the games, to learn the sport, to learn the rules, and follow some players and stuff like that. And I really did fall in love. So this is just the next evolutionary step. Mm-hmm. It's like, you know what? I found my team. This is the last thing kind of on my to-do list of like giving this whole thing a try, and enjoying the time, right? It's like, I liken this to like if, I don't know, someone wanted to get into games and it's like, oh yeah, they play games on their phone. They maybe catch something here or there. Maybe watch a stream or something. This is like them buying a console. It's like, I'm going to drop the hundreds of dollars, get a console and a couple games, and I'm going to play them. And like, that's it. To me, this is me getting my console where it's like, I'm in it. I'm committed. Let's do it. Let's watch some great games.
Yeah. I'm similar to you. This is like my first real team in a sense. And I've been a fan of many teams throughout like my life, because again, soccer is my favorite sport. So I'm definitely a fan of like the national Mexican team. Was a Fire fan when I lived in Chicago. Like had different like fandom experiences, but I feel like this is the first team that I've really done a more serious commitment to, of like really watching the games more, like getting the jerseys, going to the game. Like, and I did go to some Fire games, so I don't want to act like I wasn't a fan of that team, but it's like, this has gotten more serious than it's been with any other team for me. I think also just like in part your commitment as well of being into it, where it's like, this is not only something that's fun that I like to do, but it's amplified because I'm doing it like with you or with somebody else and regularly. Like we're both there. We're like watching the games together. We have the app. Like it's a more serious commitment and relationship than I've had with any other team. And that's really exciting. And it's really fun.
Yeah.
And I think, it's like, we've been not literally because I didn't save my money for this really, but it's like we've been saving all of our money for this kind of thing because I've been around like sports people like my whole life, as you have as well. But like my family, like a year, maybe at this point 2 years ago, they had 2 seats at the Rams season tickets at that stadium. And they were more than 2 people, but they only had 2 seats, for like financial reasons. Like, okay, we'll just kind of we'll all share these seats and we'll go, and we don't go, we can sell them. And they were pretty good at like selling them for the games they didn't go, and made like a lot of their money back actually just through selling those tickets. Obviously that's more of a popular sport than soccer is, I would say. So it's probably a little easier to sell them. But my brother Edwin was like, do you want to get it? Y'all want to get in on these season tickets to the Rams? I said, fucking absolutely not. Absolutely not. Just because I'm not into American football like that. So I'm like, no, it'd be fun to go. Like I enjoy going to, we go out and see the Dodgers a couple times. Like it's fun. But it's not like invest a lot of money fun. Like for context, that Ram season tickets that they got, there were 2 seats, 10 games total, $1,200 for those 2 seats. So they each paid $400. And I'm like, I ain't gonna pay $400. But then I still gotta get my soda. I am good. And funnily enough, I still went to one of the games anyway. So because there was like a day that they couldn't go, like one of them couldn't go. So I went with my dad, which was fun. I had a great time, and it was, and it is really cool. And I got to see, a little bit of the firsthand perks of like, they get their season ticket holder gift, and it was like part of the field. It's like there was cool stuff. And then, and when I went with my dad, it's like my brother's like, use my season ticket discount at the thing. And it's only like 15% off or something, but it's like, ooh, like it is nice.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely a nice experience to kind of be in that like inner circle. I think the other thing that drove us to get the tickets, at least this was a driving factor for me, is I saw like, because I follow them on like Twitter and stuff, like the Galaxy. I saw them have like, I forgot if they call it Galaxy Day or what, but it's like, it's our season ticket holder day. And obviously it's like the marketing of it got me, I guess, but it's like everyone's running around having fun. And it's like, ooh, like, oh my God, Ricky's there. And he's high-fiving like a toddler or something. And I know like, obviously they're going to like be, more there for the kid, I get, obviously I might not get the same attention that like a group of kids will get because it's more wholesome, but it's like, oh, and then Painsel's there and he's like signing a jersey and I'm like, oh my God, yay. I really want, I'm like, it's like, I feel like that meme of, damn, you wish that was you, right? And I'm like, I want that to be us. Like, that seems like so fun to get to do that. Like, again, that's one of the many perks that comes with the season ticket. So that was also a thing that like drove me towards it where I'm like, Isaiah, wouldn't it be fun if we could go for like our season ticket day and like go, yee,
we bought those jerseys. If I can get these jerseys, either jersey signed, that'd be awesome. Like just to have it, like that's cool. This is the first team where I know the roster, and again, it helps that a soccer team is not that many people, right? Comparatively, especially to like NFL. Football, but like, you had that question come up on MinMax where Ben was like, Janet, name a Mets player. Any Mets player. I can name some, not only Galaxy players, but MLS players at this point. And it's like, that's cool.
Yeah.
So yes, the tickets we got are in the stadium itself has like, there's a couple different options for seating, right? There's like the sort of quote sunny side of things. There's the quote shaded side. On either side, there's kind of like either goal side, and then like there's the center. We ended up going more towards the on the shaded side, more towards like the supporter section.
Yeah.
So like we're not in the center of the field or more towards like one of the goals. But I think the perks of that, which it wasn't until you brought this up that I was like, okay, that actually is interesting. Is that like in my head, the best seating is like in the center, in the middle, high up, so you can see the whole field. You can see all the play that happens as if you were watching it on TV, right? You get that video game, that FIFA or EAFC kind of like perspective, right? But you brought up that like, well, that's that perspective. Like I can get that watching the game at home or like playing the game on, playing EAFC. It's like, I can't get the perspective of like being right up to the box and like seeing the game when it's there in front of you. I can't get that elsewhere. And so to me, that kind of like made me definitely more okay with like where we got our seats, happy where we got our seats.
Which are also cheaper than the center.
Also cheaper.
But genuinely, and like I think the center is a good view. I think most people would say like that's the best view because it's like you see everything equally. But my argument is, while it is, you always get a good, you never get a bad view.
Yeah.
But you never really get a good view either because since you're equidistant from everything, you're not really looking at like any action super close up. And with the being like more towards one of the goals, when they're there, you're really close to them. And I know the argument is, well, sometimes they're really far away. Yeah, but like but sometimes they're really close.
Yeah.
And because they switch sides, like, like in for the halves, like they're always going to be trying to half the game. They're going to try to score on one of those goals. So there will be like significant action. And even on the other half, okay, well now you're excited to see like the defense part. And when they do a corner kick, you're near that corner. And I like being towards the supporters side net because you also get a little bit of the energy and the chanting from the supporter section, which is fun. And this also comes from like us having, again, gone to those games before and having sat in some of these seats and gotten those experiences and seen like what that's like. Or even just like we had an incredible opportunity to see the Mexican national team play with really what a lot of people would say incredible seats, super close. I felt like I was watching kids at the park play, but these are professional athletes. We were so close.
No, facts.
But because we were low, it was kind of hard to, and then, oh my God, everyone kept standing up for everything. It's like, and I'm 5 feet tall. So while it might sound like, oh, this is just a broke person coping, but I do think there's something nice about being a little bit elevated because you can get like that, kind of like the drop on the perspective a bit. But yeah, we got those tickets. We looked around at the seating quite a bit. We got to talk to, I know you did most of the conversations, but like what do they call it? Like season ticket reps?
Yeah, essentially, yeah. One of the people in the front office for like the LA Galaxy.
Yeah, and like they sent you like a link to like see the seats better than like
it's
what
like
you can normally see.
It's like a virtual map of the stadium, and like you can choose any seat and then like see
sit in it.
Essentially, yeah, like see the perspective from that seat, which honestly helped a lot because I know you were also kind of a little bit curious, but I was like very nervous of like, oh man, like anytime you're locking into a thing like that, if it's one game, that's one game.
Yeah.
If we get tickets for one day. Yeah, it's like, that's right. But like this is like, I'm committed to this for a whole season, and I hope that the seat isn't ass.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, no, cool. We was able to see. Oh yeah, imagine it, and even like also there are other sites that like people aggregate their photos from various seats in different venues. Took a look at those, saw some comparable seats, and like all of it looked above board and like super good. So I was really happy with where we got.
One thing that was wild too is when you did finally do the call to like purchase the tickets, when the person was like, yeah, so those seats were sold, and it's like, oh my God, but then they had a seat like right behind it. So it was like, okay, same difference pretty much, but I'm like, oh my gosh, like that was like, it's like, what we feared. It was just such a.
But also, I went online, like I was online with him, and they still looked available. I'm like,
I don't know.
This man's just trying to get us.
But they were like, well, actually, they were the same price, I think.
Yeah, the same price and everything.
In the amount. But yeah, we got the full season. So that's 2 seats. The total was $2,033. So like $2,033.
Yep.
For 19 games, question mark? That might be slightly off, plus or minus one.
So that includes 2 seats at 19 games.
And
plus
the parking pass. The parking pass on its own is $475.
Yeah.
So like, I know the math was kind of presented funny. That gets us everything and the parking pass. If you maybe like lived close enough or just took transit, which our transit's bad and takes a long time, so that's why we're driving all the time to go to the games. And we live like far enough away that it's like kind of, it would just be it'd be like a 2-hour train ride or something to like go over. It's like that's a lot. You could save a bit there, so it comes out to like a little bit over $1,000 a person because we just split it down the middle. But if we want to do just for fun facts, $85 a month.
That's not bad.
I feel like that's, and again, I do not want to sneeze at that. This is a lot of money.
Yeah.
But this is obviously, it's an incredible privilege that we're even able to afford to do this. Again, I keep throwing in Isaiah's face. I'm like, we don't have kids. There's no reason not to just piss the money away. But yes, that is a large amount of money. I think unless you're obscenely out of touch, I don't think anyone would say $1,000 is not a significant amount of money. That's a lot. But it is only $85 a month, and you can't do the pay as you go, like monthly payment plan for it. We chose to just pay it up front because I hate having monthly payments.
To me, thinking with how I am, right? This is just how I am with money. You know this, I think by now. I love paying for things up front.
Yeah.
Being done with it, one and done with it, make a purchase, done with it. Because then anytime I do it, it feels free. And I know it's not free because I paid for it. But like we're going to be parking essentially is a non-issue now. The tickets are a non-issue now. Getting there is just taking the time out of our day to drive there.
Which I'm a little scared about. And this is going to be up to our own, being like financially responsible.
Yeah.
The concessions.
Yeah. And like merch. And because we get discounts for all that stuff now too as season ticket holders. So,
but I will say I did already make and that's the other thing too, where, again, I'm not going to ever try to like talk around the fact that like we spent a lot of money on these tickets. That's just true. But we also spent a lot of money on this last season already. You know,
that's true.
We bought a jersey. Oh, you actually bought 2 jerseys, but like I have a jersey. The jerseys are. I mean, I think the women's one is a little cheaper, but like for a jersey, you're dropping at least like $100, like north of 100 a lot of times for these jerseys. That's one. I got that fucking jacket, which honestly, if I go back, I'm like, maybe I should have got that jacket. That jacket was expensive too.
Oh, you worn it.
I wore it once. I wore it the first day I got it, and it was cold that day.
It was.
So
yeah, all right.
Hey, I got my jacket. That was expensive. And then just like every time we've gotten like a lot of concessions. So I think especially because the number of games we're going to, I know my life. I cannot afford to drop that amount on concessions 19 times over. No, absolutely not. No. So there will have to be some restraint. Yeah. Which I'm not looking forward to because I love having no restraint. But frankly, they sell like hot dogs outside the stadium. I might still spend money that day, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna probably maybe I get like a beer, maybe and even then maybe sometimes I don't.
Getting a Coke or coffee or something,
which is still expensive. But it's not like I am no longer going to be like, dinner's at the stadium. Like we have food. We have food at home.
Oh no, legit. We have food at home.
For sure. Yes. I'm stuffing my pants with hot dogs and I'm walking in that stadium. But yeah, like it is definitely like, again, I think if you have the means to do so, and at any point there's times that you have to like kind of decide like what's your vice or whatever. What are you kind of investing like in for having fun? Mm-hmm. And this is ours, you know? Yeah, and I'm really excited about it. We have our jerseys already.
Yeah.
I think I'm scared. I'm a little scared. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little scared. But also, like, I don't know. This is what I like to do. Some people have Disney.
Some people build PCs.
Some people have other stuff. Like, this is one of our vices, and I'm excited to get into it because, again, there are a lot of really cool perks to it. I don't know financially how our year and our plans are just going to shake out for like how we want to spend our time outside of being in LA and traveling. Obviously, I have work trips that I do sometimes. But another thing that we really want to do is we want to go to every MLS stadium, ideally seeing the Galaxy play when they're there. And something that was really cool that you found out.
Yeah.
I'll let you deliver the exciting news.
As a Galaxy season ticket member, you can essentially apply to get away game tickets for free. Now, they don't put you up into a hotel or pay for your travel. They work with you. They give you like these, like, they have like a portal basically for figuring out flights and hotels and stay and stuff.
That's nice.
But you do get tickets free to the games, you know, if you like just sign up for them basically.
Yeah.
So sometimes if it's like a local away game, like LA has two MLS teams here, the LA Galaxy and LAFC. If it's a LA Galaxy away at LAFC game, it's going to be really hard to get those tickets just because there's enough LAFC fans there that the tickets probably aren't going to be available, right? But you know, we have friends in Seattle. We want to go up and see the Seattle Sounders play. We can get some free tickets going there. Portland also is like over in that same area. Yeah. We could get some free tickets to go see them play in Portland. I'm sure they also do some like East-West cross games every once in a while. Sure, we got friends in Atlanta. We got friends in Houston. We got friends
so then we're like,
back
maybe
in
we
Chicago.
can try to like, I'm like, we'll see your family in Atlanta, and then we go to this Atlanta FC.
Yeah,
you know, it's like
exactly.
kind of just Atlanta United, I think, is the team. I might be butchering that. Sorry if I am. But like, kind of just, and again, this is why like, and I know obviously this is more, but these are things we want to already do. So it's about like investing in like, okay, when are we doing what, and how intense is it going to be?
Yeah, and also this is the goal of seeing every MLS stadium is not a like 2025 season goal.
There's
it's like
no way, unless
just couples goal that
unless
we have.
really like
things would have to change dramatically.
Ad space is available on this podcast. Like, please, like,
facts.
Hell, flying us out. We'll talk about the hotel or whatever.
Yeah, Hilton,
you know,
Marriott, all y'all can all.
My dad works in the hotel industry. He just like is like a regular worker, but like, you know, he's there. He's there. We've been there for a long time. But that's
Delta?
really cool. What?
That was it. Delta, American Airlines, all y'all.
That part's really cool. There's also like we said, there's like the ticket holder day, which is fun. Mm-hmm. You know, again, the discounts on like the merch and the concessions. And then is there any other perk that I'm forgetting about? I think those are the main ones. They give you like a gift every year. This year the gift is like a Hydro Flask, which is like,
hey, I'll take it.
Oh, I mean, I'm gonna take it because it's $2,000 Hydro Flask. You know, but it's not. You know, if it was in a Walla, I'd be hyped.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Also, too, I'm a little bit bummed that like technically Isaiah's the season ticket holder, and I just go. So it's like. Right? So it's like, do we get 2 Hydro Flasks? I mean, I don't even want 2 Hydro Flasks, but I don't think we get 2.
That's a good question.
Just because we have 2 seats.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's a little bit of a con, I guess, like in that sense. But
you get MLS for free.
MLS
pass for free.
Which how much is that normally? It's like $50.
100 or 120, something like that.
Okay. And we do have that prior. So again, like
we saved $100.
This is not me trying to like exactly act like this is actually saved. Like no, it's an expensive thing that we got because we're able to do so, and that's really cool. But again, this kind of fits. I think for some people, it really can fit into like what you want to do with your life or your year or whatever. And I think for us, like we are those people, or at least we aspire to be those people, and we're gonna be those people this year. So I'm really excited about that. Oh, the other thing that you get is if they make the playoffs, you can opt into. So let me try to word this correctly. Basically, automatically getting a ticket, but you do have to buy the ticket. It's not like a free ticket. So, and what's really cool that I was very surprised by is like, because the Galaxy had a great season this year, they're going to be in the playoffs, they could go the whole way kind of vibe, is we signed up like, a day or two ago or whatever at the time of recording this. We already get that option because we're like technically season ticket, even though like we don't have the tickets now, like I'm, we're just at home. So they are giving us that option, which I think we're leaning on taking. Is kind of where we landed.
At least for like round one, and
I think I think you have to like take it. So you have to kind of. So the way it works is like it's almost like when you if you've ever like when you pre-order something, they don't always charge you, right? It's kind of like you're pre-ordering the tickets, and it's like, okay, they'll charge you once they're like, oh, the round one. If they go to round two, like so, you have to inherently like obviously keep paying for the tickets if they like make it the whole way, and they do get progressively more expensive, but they never get too expensive. I think the highest one is like 150 or something like that, which again, nothing to sneeze at, but it's not like different sports cost different amounts, and this isn't as cheap as baseball is, but it's not like nearly as expensive as like basketball or something else. So it's cool as like an option to have that I wasn't expecting us to get for this season. I thought that would just be like, hey, your season's like, hope they do good next year kind of thing. So that's the other perk as well, where you don't have to deal with like resellers and stuff like that, or like just a higher, those tickets are obviously going to go for pretty high because people are going to, if they make it to the championship, people are going to want to see that game. So like getting locked in at a price is really cool. And I think
it's a discounted price too at that.
Yeah, because that's like a locked in like set price. So yeah, are there any other perks that you want to mention? I think those are all of them.
I think that's all of them. You mentioned the discounts, the away games, the Galaxy Day, the
playoffs thing. You mentioned the MLS.
MLS Pass. Yeah, no, I think that's it.
So
yeah, if you are also a Galaxy fan, let us know some secrets. We're missing something. If you also have like a season ticket member, hit us up.
We're we're at another. It sounds snobby to be like we're at another level in the community. So actually, no, but like we're like in this little group. Like we bought our way into this little club, and we're there, and we can like hang out. And I don't know what the future holds for us in terms of what we want to do. Again, obviously, this is like a significant amount of money that we're sort of locked in to like do this, and saying yes to something always means saying no to other stuff inherently. So it's like I'm not going to say that we're going to, we'll see how the season goes. We'll report back on the podcast that we'll have this forever. But it is a really cool, like, this could be like our thing that we do, like, for like in our household, like, when we have kids, we think it could be like a family thing. Like, I don't know, obviously, again, finances could change. Just what we want to do might change. Kids could also grow up and be like, I fucking hate coming to this game. So like, obviously you have to be open to the, that happening. They defect to LAFC. I don't know what could happen.
Oh man.
You don't know.
That'd be crazy.
What the future holds, but I'm like, what I envisioned for you. My son, my daughter, my child. But yeah, like I'm just excited to like, I don't know, we do stuff together all the time, so it's kind of dumb to say I'm excited for us to do something together, but like I'm excited for this to be like a thing we do and our thing, and like I don't know, the adventures we're gonna have, and the I'm even looking forward to like what ends up happening. Like if we can't go to a game, maybe we can have like a friend go. Maybe one of us can't go and you go with my brother or one of our friends. We had a friend who gave us let us take their Angel City seats. So it's definitely like, I don't know, I'm very excited about it. And then my plan too financially is, in case we do want to do this next year, because money doesn't go bad, it's always
start
there.
Saving now.
Is I'm going to put $85 a month aside for the thing, so that hopefully, and the prices can get raised and stuff depending on like seating or just inflation, or I think they said if they draft like a really good player that it can like go up. Yeah,
we're locked in.
Yeah. So those things can be there, but that's my plan. And then even if we decide, hey, we don't want season tickets, I'll either let it sit there for one day when we do want the season tickets again, or just have it, used for other things, or season tickets somewhere else, or just any other thing we might want to do. Disney for a year. I don't know, like whatever. It's probably not enough for Disney for a year, to be honest.
One thing I did forget, and I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll see how true this is that the Dignity Health Sports Park Arena, or sports park, I don't know if it's an arena, the park, the stadium where the team plays, they're redoing the lower bowl seating. So apparently,
but are we in that lower bowl?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
the new ass seats. Yes. Talk about this.
We'll have seats that like will be the first owners of these seats.
No one's cheeks have hit these seats.
Yeah, no farts are in them.
Yeah.
They're fart free. They're exclusive for us.
The first farts in these seats are gonna come from us. This is it's the thrill.
Yeah. So that is another. But
I'm also just excited about where we I'm excited about everything, to be honest. Where we have the seats placed, because we're more towards like an aisle.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, oh, it's gonna be so easy to get up and go to the bathroom.
Yeah,
and then just like. Also, not having to, this sounds so dumb, but like not having to pick seats when we go. Like, we're just going.
Yeah,
like
that's true. Yeah.
We bought mental space.
Yes. We just show up. And that, to me, is the really, the biggest benefit.
Also, finally, regularly having plans. Not to sound like a loser, because we're very much homebodies just by nature. Like, we're happy to be just at home, chilling, doing work, cleaning up the house, playing video games, whatever. But it's like, oh, what am I doing? Like, I got some fun stuff on the calendar. Like, my calendar is, again, not to sound like a loser, but my calendar is mostly filled with just work, work appointment. But it's like, we have standing fun things. Fun is baked into the year.
Yeah.
It's so exciting.
It'll be good. I'm curious who we're going to be seated next to. Like, I wonder if we're also surrounded by other season ticket members. Like, will we get to know our season ticket neighbor? Like, is that...
I don't know. Yeah, if they're... I know they did mention that that there's still like a lot of seats available and stuff, because it's early enough that I think they're still very much selling them and stuff. But yeah, it's there's so much in store. I guess before we transition to poll of the show, any other final thoughts, final things you're excited about?
I'm excited to see next year's season. I think this season we had a lot of new players come on. A lot of new people show up. A lot of new names start to make like a name for themselves on the team. We had some overseas people come back. We had some younger guys get more game time, and I've seen their skill develop from the beginning of the season to now, and we had a fantastic season this year. So I am very curious to see what is next year going to be like. Like, it presumably only gets better, right? Especially as like the newer guys get more experience, they learn more from the other, slightly older guys. Like, I don't think we have anyone outside of maybe Yoshida who's like getting closer to that I love athlete Yoshida's retirement age. You know what I mean? So like, I don't think we're going to lose any crazy blood.
I love that old man. And we just signed. That's another thing too that kind of pushes.
We got Ricky for the next year too.
We got Ricky for the next
He signed a 2-year extension.
2 years. So, and I love Ricky. I love seeing him play. Like, he's fun. Just one of like my all-time favorites at this point, which again, so it's like, okay, like we'll get to see Ricky, because we don't know where Ricky's going after. Like, if he might stay like for a long time, I don't know, but like there's no guarantees in that. So that's the other like thing of like, let's just do this now. Like, again, we don't have any kids, so it's like it's easy time to like go, like, this is our engagement present to ourselves.
There you go.
Yeah.
I like that.
Happy engagement.
Happy engagement.
But yeah, like I'm very excited. I'm also just excited to like use this as an excuse to get like even more into stuff. Like, okay, I'm like, let me just start hitting up the podcast. Let me start watching more stuff. Let me like really get the most bang for my buck.
Corner of the Galaxy.
Yeah, Corner of the Galaxy is a good one. I'm going to try to withhold on merch a bit, but I will say I'm eyeing some like stuff that is also outside of the official merch.
Sure.
Because it's cheaper, but also there's a little bit more, no offense to the actual merch, because I think the merch is good, but because there's other people making stuff on the side, there's like more creativity is available if you go outside of, inherently you have other people's designs. Like there's a shirt that I want off Etsy, I think, that's like, it's one of those like, that classic old school 90s kind of like a bunch of people's face like put out a bunch of times. Like Edwin had that with like the Champions shirt. They have that, but for Ricky, it says Ricky Pooch on it, and it's just got a bunch of pictures of Ricky. So it's like, okay, that's like a $30 shirt, and again, like this is there is no limit.
It will add up,
Like any other fandom, there is no limit to how much money you can spend.
Yeah.
If it was up to Isaiah, he would have been dropping God knows how much for that anniversary PlayStation. So it's like, sorry to bring it up again, but it's like, so, I'm really excited. I think it's gonna be so much fun. We're gonna have so much fun together.
Hell yeah.
It's good. It's gonna be a good time. So yeah, I don't know. Let us know on socials or in the comments on the YouTube or whatever your experience with sports stuff. If you've gone ahead and what your experiences have been with all of that. But we are excited to join. If you're a season ticket holder as well, let us know. You'll know where we'll be. We'll be at Dignity Health.
Oh man.
And that brings us to the poll of the show. We need like a nice almost like stat of the day from ESPN. Stat of the day, or maybe it was Dan Patrick. Stat of the day. Stat of the day. Like we need like a poll of the show kind of. Poll the show. Of the show. Okay. Anyway, no, that's not going to be it. I won't do that again. I'm so sorry. So we are finally back to our regular recording schedule. We record, then we post instead of kind of having these stacked from all the travel and all the different things.
Yes.
That being said, I am reporting on 2 results. From episode 10 and episode 11. Episode 10, we had asked, how often do you go back to your hometown? The options were never left, once a year or more, every few years, haven't been back.
This is surprising to me.
The majority of people never left.
That is surprising to me. And it's not, look, this is me far from being like uppity snob.
We are not beating the West Coast Elite allegations with this episode.
We're not, but it is not that. It's more like when I think of me and my friend group, a lot of us left our hometown.
Yeah.
And granted, we went to like bigger, like Buffalo in itself was it was the biggest city locally kind of thing. You know what I mean? And we went to bigger cities, we went to New York or Atlanta, or we're in California. Like most of my friend group did that. But I was surprised, not that like 42% never left, but that 42% compared to the other options never left. Like,
right.
I expected either 40%, they never left to be like huge landslide or none at all. You know what I mean?
So getting caught in the middle.
Yeah.
I'm just so curious about like, where we've ended up now with being in LA, or even where we were before, like San Francisco, like West Coast, and like us being on the West Coast. If like what will happen like with our kids, like are they gonna leave LA? Like that's their hometown, so are they just gonna
that's true.
But I think there is something fun about, even with living in LA, like I love LA, but the idea of leaving LA and doing something else, like that sounds very like go to New York or do something like there's a lot of cool
Chicago.
cities.
Chicago's a major city. Like it's a big national city. It's a world city. And you still went somewhere else and like
there's something fun about going somewhere else and kind of just like carving out your own path and having different eras. Like I don't know, that's kind of exciting to me inherently, but also retroactively, because I didn't grow up in Chicago. Like I can't wait to leave Chicago. Like I was really happy in Chicago. And then, work drew me to the West Coast, and I've like loved it ever since. So I don't know. Mileage varies like with most things, but it's interesting to see. But yeah, 42% never left, 33% once a year or more, 17 every few years, and then 7% haven't been back. Shout to the 7%, because I feel like y'all got stories. You're like, fuck this town.
Yes,
so if you have like, I think though people split. Like one reason I don't really go back to Chicago is because I don't have like a lot of my more immediate family is now in the West Coast. Yeah. But if my dad and my brother were in Chicago, I would be going back. Like
sure.
Every couple of years just save money. It's if I spend all that money on the Galaxy tickets, I'm like, I can't see you anymore. I save for the Galaxy. And then we also asked on episode 11, our poll of the show was, how do you prefer to watch a TV show? The options were ASAP, binging by season, or wait for full series. 43% with the ASAP, 35 binging by season, and 21 wait for full series. I voted wait for full series.
I voted wait for full series also.
Yeah. I don't always do it, but it is my preferred way if I can.
I think the more accurate vote for me is maybe binging by season. I'm definitely not a ASAP like week by week, but the people who did vote week by week, they left comments, and I can get with their reasoning. A lot of people are like, if I don't watch it when the episode drops, I get it spoiled for me online, or like I miss something, or someone's talking about, I can't be in the conversations as they're happening, and I can totally understand that. I'm just a season by seasoner at least.
Yeah.
Usually then I have the free time. I can take a weekend. I can just like plow through something. I don't miss the conversations that much. Usually things don't get spoiled that crazy. Yeah. There are some shows that we do watch weekly.
Like Severance, I'm going to watch weekly if it's a weekly drop.
Severance I'm watching weekly.
Because it's so, like, I need it so bad. And I think it's like, to your point and to the people's point, it depends on how much you care about spoilers and how much you see spoilers. Like I actually haven't gotten most things spoiled for me.
Yeah.
With like the Marvel stuff, when I was really deep into that, I was doing week to week just for the fun of watching it with my friends.
Yeah.
And I do think because I have such a nerdy like following list, like I would get some stuff spoiled for me. But that was only when everyone was watching. Like right now with like Agatha all along. I've gotten like
talking about that.
I've gotten one hint of not spoiler, but I've gotten one person be like, "Whoa!" hashtag episode whatever, and I'm like, I'm not a big fan of seeing that, but I'm like, that's not ruining the show for me. I'll be fine. And yeah, it's gotten less less conversations on my timeline at least. So,
but for the same thing, we also did we watched usually the Disney Marvel movie shows stuff like with your other friends. Like we watched Loki as like they came out and like the season 1 and season 2, I think as well, right?
Yeah.
Like we would watch.
I want to get back to
as
doing
a
that
group.
too
Yeah.
because I think it was really fun having like I like the conversation when like I have a curated group for the conversation.
Yeah.
Like I don't really want to, and this is part of also just having like a lot of followers on Twitter. Like I don't know, I don't want to really like tweet out my film TV thoughts and then have like something about it. Like the vibes don't hit the same for me as it does for games. Like I am happy to share my gaming opinions online and have a conversation and hear from people. But I guess with TV and movies, it's more casual for me. So I'm like, I don't really want y'all. Some of y'all take it too far, or too deep. Like I don't want the smoke. I don't want the conversation. I don't want anything. I want to be alone. But there's something really fun about watching a full series, like way after the fact, when like spoilers are way gone and you're just alone on an island. Like I did that for Breaking Bad, and I had a great time watching Breaking Bad by myself.
Yeah.
Years later, like tweeting, "Y'all, Breaking Bad's really good." And then I also think this is gonna make me sound like I'm very attention seeking, and I definitely am like egotistical in a sense. But like, there's also something fun about being so late that other people are almost excited, like watching it through like almost like the fun of a let's play.
Yeah.
And I find everyone's really respectful. Like in my experience, like I've tweeted about Breaking Bad as I was watching it, and for the most part, people weren't like, he breaks bad at the end. I don't know, like the bad breaks. Like, no, don't tell me. Like I don't want to be surprised. I don't know. So yeah, that's been my experience. But that brings us to this week's poll of the show. Yeah,
this week's poll of the show will be over on our Twitter as our pinned tweet at Games and Not. And we're asking, have you ever had season tickets to a sport? The answer is going to be yes, no, but I've known someone who has.
Yeah.
I think that's different enough that we still want to know. We want to track that
You're
data.
a season ticket holder in law. You know, you're like kind of near.
Exactly.
Because maybe you're getting like, you're either seeing some of the perks, or maybe you're getting something. Maybe you got a free seat or a cheap seat when they couldn't go or something. Like
you win enough. You're
near the room where it happens.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
exactly. So you're in the room, you're out the room.
You're like a season ticket ally. You know, like I don't smoke, but my friends smoke, and I'm voting yes on proposition.
I season ticket socially. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like you're kind of there. You're in the mix. You're around the people that are around the people, you know?
So yeah, head over to Twitter, check the poll, vote, and leave a comment below if you have anything more contextual to say to your answer.
And that's it for this week. You can send your questions and topics to the email inbox@gamesandnotgames.com. You can follow the podcast version of the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Casts, and everywhere else you get your podcasts. If you enjoy the show, be sure to give us that 5-star rating.
And if you're an audio listener, remember you can get this video over on YouTube as well at Games and Not Games. If you like the video, be sure to leave us a like. It helps us get in front of more people. Also, give us a follow over on social media. We're on Twitter at Games and Not, and everywhere else at Games and Not Games. That's Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, TikTok, Twitch, etc. And until next time, gang.
Gang.
Peace.